All right, guys, so here we are on example number 3. So let's read it through it together and let's see if we can solve part A, B, C, and D. So it says on the first day of the fiscal year, company issues a 7.5 million, 8% 5-year bond that pays semi-annual interest of $300,000, receiving cash of $7,740,000. So it's asking us to journalize the entries to the issuance of the bond, the interest payment, the first interest payment on June 30th, the amortization of the bond, and then lastly, the repayment at principal, okay? All right, so let's start with the famous question that we always do. Is it gonna be sold at a discount, a premium, or face amount? Questions that need answers. All right, so how we're going to approach this is we are issuing it at 7.5 million, but the amount that we actually got was over and above what we asked for, right? 7.5 compared to 7.7 million, it's a tremendous difference. So even though it did not tell us that the interest rate in the market was whatever the amount was, by us receiving more than what we asked for, we know this is being sold at a premium, right? We're getting way more than we asked for, all right? So let's journalize this transaction. So the issuance, so we're gonna do a debit to cash in the amount of $7,740,000, right? That's what we received. Next, we're going to capture the part that we know for sure, which is we created a liability, which is called bonds payable, in the amount of $7.5 million. Again, if you're not sure where to go from here, you know you're not balanced, you know you need another credit to balance this, and that credit is going to be called the premium on bonds payable. So the way we get that amount is we do the difference between the cash we received and the liability that we created. So we're going to do the 7,740,000 less our bond payable of 7,500,000, and the amount we come up with is $240,000. Okay. All right. So B, now we need to establish or capture the first interest payment on June 30th. This represents our first interest payment to our investors. So to do so, we're going to do an interest expense in the amount of $300,000, right? And then our credit, we're paying to our credit would be cash. Okay. All right. So that should be a little redundant to you guys, but hopefully you guys are keeping up. C is the amortization of the related bond. All right, so we are now having to amortize this particular bond, right? So to do that, we're going to take the full amount of the premium, which is the 240,000, and we're going to divide that by our number of periods. And the way we get our number of periods is we look at the term of the bond, and we're going to do it semi-annually, which is 2 years. So time 2 years. So therefore, our number of periods equals 10 periods. Okay, so that what goes here. And so therefore, the amount that we are going to, that means the amount that we're going to amortize semi-annually is going to be 240,000 divided by our 10 periods, which equals $24,000. Okay, so to journalize this, we're going to do a debit of our premium on bonds payable in the amount of $24,000, and then our credit is going to be to interest expense. Running out of space. All right, so that's that. So I'll come back to combining these two journal entries in a second. But last but not least, I want to capture the payment at maturity. So after the 5 years is over, we have to pay back this bond to our investors. And to do so, we're going to do a a debit to bonds payable because we're paying off our liability in the amount of $7,500,000. All right, so very similar to how we looked at bonds payable, we're only going to pay back our liability. Even though we receive more cash, we're only going to pay back our original liability or the face amount of the bond. And then our credit is going to be cash in the amount of $7.5 million. All right. So with that, what I'm going to do now is combine these two areas so you guys have a good understanding of what that looks like. So I'm running out of space, but I'm going to make it happen. Okay. All right. So let's combine both B and C so we can do that. The way I like to do this is to do a T account because it kind of makes it easier to capture all of this. So we have interest expense. We have a debit, credit. So our first debit is $300,000, right? And then we have a credit. Sorry. All right, and then we have a credit of here, right? And a debit here. Then we have a credit of $24,000. Right. So what's the difference? Well, if I do 24,000 less 300,000, that comes out to $276,000 as a debit. So that's how I'm going to write my journal entry. My interest expense is 276,000, and then so that takes care of that. And then I have the premium, that there's another debit there. So then I have my premium on bonds payable in the amount of 24,000. So that takes care of this one, that takes care of this one, that takes care of this one, and the last one I have left is cash. And so my credit is going to be a cash in the amount of 300,000. Okay. All right, so that is how you're going to capture all of that into one journal entry. If you're like, oh, I don't know about that, girl, just let me know again, or you're just like, hey, I'm a little lost, just touch base with me or rewind the video, or I'll pause it and go through it again, okay? All right,